With Philip Ingram, former senior military intelligence officer, is joining me all this morning. Good morning once again to you.
Good morning again. Yeah.
So much to talk about. Where do we start? I want to get to some more topics, particularly Farrow and Ball, the paint people.
Yes.
I've never bought anything from Farrow and Ball because I think it's a tax on rich, stupid people. But you told me that you've bought Farrow and Ball paint. There's a story there, and I know you're neither. I don't know. You might be the first. You're definitely not the second. But let's talk about the immigration figures because there's a lot of them. They came out at 9:30 this morning, and basically, you know, there's a hell of a lot of people coming to this country. This is legal and illegal. Vast majority are coming legally. They are given visas by the government. These are figures up to the year ending June 2024. So this all happened entirely under... actually, this is under Rishi Sunak's watch. This is 1.16 million visas granted for work. So over 1 million visas granted for work or study or family reasons. That includes the people who are coming, the dependents, so the wife, the husband, the kids. 38,500 plus illegal migrants were detected. 81% of those, so 8 out of 10 of those arrived by small boats. Those are the one we've been seeing those figures on, Channel migrant crossings. But actually there's a whole bunch more that come over lorries, you know, and on the on the Eurostar or whatever. That is down by just over a quarter on the previous year. However, it's still massively higher than it used to be. 286,000 visas granted to applicants in all work categories. That's down on the previous year, but more than double what it was pre-pandemic. Again, study visas, 432,000 granted to foreign students. It's down on the previous year. We've seen lots of universities offering more clearing places to British students this year, although still more for foreign students available because they've lost a lot of foreign students. But it's still 61% higher than 2019. A load of family-related visa applications. We've got humanitarian routes. 93,000 people offered a safe and legal route to come here. Again, a lot of those would have been previously from Ukraine, so that's gone down by almost 40%. Asylum seekers, 97,000 people applied for asylum in the year to June 2024, and there were almost 92,000 what they're called initial decisions on asylum applications. That's 4 times as many in the previous year, because someone at the Home Office decided to do some work for a change, and more than half of those, 6 out of 10 of those, were basically you can stay. I mean, it's just a lot of people in this country. Just under 19,000 people entered detention. It's lower. Total enforced returns did go up, but we're still only looking at 7,000 people. I mean, the whole thing's a horrible mess, isn't it?
Lots of numbers, and it's extremely messy and all the rest of it. You know, some of the clear bits that come out of this, you know, the previous government had said they were going to start to bring the numbers down. They didn't say they were going to get them back to what they were when they were very low, but the statistics showed that they were starting to get the numbers down. The issue, and when we're talking with Richard Parside about this, you know, he turned around and said, the Labour representative that came into the studio, he was turning around saying, but a lot of these legal migrants that are coming in are paying tax and they're paying twice the NHS and all the rest of it. That's great for the individual that's coming in to work, but not for their families and dependents that they're bringing in.
But also,
and they're the ones that put the additional burden.
Work they're doing, and the vast majority of people who come here to work are not high-paid, you know, French bankers or German, you know, stockbrokers. I mean, they just aren't, and they're not net contributors. Even if they're paying tax, even if they're not claiming any benefits, they are still basically acting to depress the wages of Brits. Now you say, well, the Brits won't do these jobs. Well, they don't want to do a job on minimum wage as a carer, back-breaking work in difficult circumstances. Well, no, I mean, I don't want to be a carer. I certainly wouldn't do it for minimum wage. If it was the only job I could do to put food on the table for my kid, then I would. But when people have a job, they do a different option, or have an option, they might do a different job, or if they've got the option of being on benefits and not working, they might well do that as opposed to minimum wage job. But the point is that when you do say, well, we'll just bring in people from abroad to do those jobs, then you keep the wages at that level. Maybe what the situation is, the wages need to go up.
Well, yes, and it's then who pays for the wages, because it's public sector, you and I pay. It's private sector, they need to make their profits in doing it. So the legal migrants is one issue, but it's the families of the legal migrants that are causing problems. I think
because just financially, if you're a dependent, you're not a contributor.
Correct, but I think the thing that most people are anxious about, if you really talk to them, are the illegal migrants that are coming in, and the lack of plan to deal with the illegal migrants.
Yep.
I'm sorry, increasing the number of intelligence officers in the National Crime Agency. Where's this new border command? What's happened to that? But
we don't have a commander. That's for sure.
Well, exactly. But that's not going to deal with anything in the short term. And all they're doing is they're using what already exists. And actually, we've got rid of the deterrent, and there were big flaws with the Rwanda plan, but you need some form of deterrent. And the Home Secretary is saying that she's going to throw people out of the country and throw more out of the country. Well, 44%, according to the statistics, are from countries we don't have diplomatic relations with. We can't throw them out. So we're going to automatically give them, they failed asylum anywhere else.
But it's interesting that Richard Powell-Sayed, the Labour representative, said, we need to give safe humanitarian routes. The reality is these young men, fighting-age young men without any qualifications, and I'm sorry, most of them don't speak English. The idea that these people are going to be top priority for us to bring over, but also, again, so many of them are economic migrants. And so many people are claiming, for instance, like, I live in a country where it's illegal to be gay and I'm gay, and, people, that's an ongoing thing. We've had the whole, I've converted to Christianity, we saw what's happened there, very gullible local vicars falling for that, and courts and tribunals, and people coming from this country. I'm sorry, we can't take everybody. And neither can the rest of Europe, neither can America. We can't, America can perhaps manage it better. It's a bigger country. We don't have the space. But particularly, if we are going to take this number of people, it might have been an idea for, the government to have asked our permission. They did ask. We said no, repeatedly at every election and in the referendum in 2016. But also, crucially, if they were going to do it, and this goes back to you, Tony Blair, you need to actually prepare the ground. You need to build enough homes. You need to make sure there are enough school places. You need to make sure there are enough GP appointments. You need to... This idea that, we're importing all these doctors and nurses. The vast majority of people who are coming in here are not doctors and nurses. And
there's a good percentage of those that are coming in have already been refused asylum at least once in one other European country. I wonder why. And there should be an automatic single strike and you're out. So we don't have to process those people here. You've applied somewhere else, you've been refused, you're automatically... Do we even know? Do we even know? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, open borders to Europe and for our country, but meanwhile we're going to have to pay €7 to be able to travel to the EU. Exactly.
Again, the EU are perfectly entitled to do that. They should, I want them to have more border controls. The question is, when you have them, what are you going to do with them? What do you make of this report on the front page of the Times? We're asking our audience today about this. This is a Labour, again, they're not saying they will. It's being denied publicly, but a government source has told the Times newspaper, very experienced journalists who know their sources. No one will say it publicly at this stage, but there is acknowledgement that this is an area where we will need to move. Ministers prepared to allow young Europeans, so under 30s, to come and live and work in Britain as part of a wider reset of relations with Brussels after Brexit. So you're looking at sort of 3 years being allowed to come and work here, and 3 years you're young, be able to go and work in Europe. Well, that would be lovely, apart from the fact that we don't get to choose who comes here on that basis. Free movement could be returned for under 30s in the EU to all intents and purposes. I'm asking, is this an attempt to reverse Brexit? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. We will get some more of your calls, and your messages coming in thick and fast just after a break. But 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You can send a WhatsApp to the same number. You can text us on 87222 and get in touch on X at TalkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost £1, standard network rate message. But Philip, is this just a cunning way where, the EU want us to have free movement again? They want to have us be a rule taker, not a rule maker, but still get all the benefits. And Keir Starmer wants us back in the EU. He's made no secret of it. He spent 3 years fighting Brexit. Yeah,
across Europe, people want to learn English. The way to learn English is come into the UK, an English-speaking nation, when you're young. You don't get the same numbers from the UK wanting to go and learn French, German, Italian, Dutch, Polish, or anything else.
This becomes more of a benefit from youngsters from the EU rather than from the Brits.
And this is a dilution of Brexit. And we're still so early into the new government for them to start to bring in these things that are sending clear statements. And the Times would not have this on its front page if its journalists had not been checked and double-checked and triple-checked.
Exactly.
And it may not be put as an exact quote, but it's definitely there.
We know it's something they would be looking at. We absolutely know it's sort of thing in the negotiations. Let's also talk, I mean, do get your calls in. I do want to hear from you on this, 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about GCSEs. Hundreds of thousands of youngsters getting their BTECs, their VTECs, but of course, crucially, their GCSEs. 6.5 million across the nation GCSE results are coming out today. And we have seen, and, you know, this is a good thing, yet again, GCSE the grades have fallen for the third year in a row since the absurd grade inflation we saw for both GCSEs and A-levels, when youngsters didn't take exams and were just assessed by their teachers, and everyone went, yeah, fine, give everyone an A, that seems reasonable. I think, what was it, A-levels, it was like 43 or 44% got the top grades, making it, I mean, again, everyone thinks, well, that's great for them. Not very fair on the kids who should have got the A grade, did the work for it, and when they've been given the same grade as everyone else. But there we are. But the JCQ that hand out their qualifications, they have said basically 2/3 of grades were awarded at 4, which is basically a C grade. They're graded from 1 to 9 now, not A down to, I don't know, I got a U grade in 1 O-level. It was German, and I wrote my German I didn't want to do German, but I was made to do German. I wrote my German O-level, the actual, you have to write about what goes on in some, 6 pictures and write it in your best term. I wrote it in English, but I added EN on the end of every word, so it sounded German, and I only said one phrase in my German oral, which was, which is, I don't know. Even to the question of what is your name, to the absolute horror of my German teacher, and I'm very proud of my U grade there. Parents, not so much. Just to flag that to you. But anyway, now the grades are different. They're 1 to 9. 9 is the top. So if you've got a 4, you've got a C grade. If you've got a 7, you've got an A grade. If you've got an 8, you've got an A star. If you've got 9, you've got an A star. Why it couldn't have been 1 to 10, I don't know. This pains me every year. But anyway, we have seen yet again a slight fall from GCSE top grades. 21.8% getting the top grades, 7, 8 or 9. Slightly down from 22%, but it's still above the 20.8% in 2019. They were trying to take the percentage of top grades down before we went into lockdowns. They've gone up and they've taken them down, but they're still above where they were. We need to get back to sensible grading. Yep. Most other countries do it on a really sensible basis, which is the top 10% get the A grade or whatever, the next 20 get the B, the next... And it's measured against your cohort. I simply don't believe that kids who lost 6 months of education in year 7 and 8, as they did, this cohort started secondary school in 2019, that they have miraculously learnt more and been better educated and worked harder than those who've come before them. It's a nonsense. Yeah,
the good old O-levels that I did was exactly what you described. You got the top percentage, got your A grades, and it worked its way down. There's lies down, lies.
So it's the same percentage every year that get those grades, because exactly. you're the top 10% or the bottom 10% or. Yeah.
And lies down, lies and statistics that are in there. There's so many numbers and so many statistics, so much analysis that's going on. You lose the actual meaning of it. And it's not really going to affect the numbers of kids that are going to have the opportunity to go and do A-levels or whatever else they want to do from a career perspective at 16 if they want to get out. Whenever they get their A-levels and they get to the next level, whether that be in employment or in education, what they get in their O-levels doesn't matter.
No one's going to ask you. I did a talk once at to A-level students who just in sixth form at a school, and I get the horror look on the faces of the teachers and the parents, and I said, I hate to tell you, in a year's time, no one's ever going to ask you what you got in your A-levels again. Again, we both will know so many people didn't do well at school but have done magnificently well. I know lots of people who did very well at school and had really quite average life. No, but that's it. We talk so much about those getting top grades, don't we? We spend very little time talking about those who get, the 1s and the 2s who are failed. Because my thing is, unless your child is absolutely, he's got severe learning difficulties, there's no reason for your kid to be getting those grades unless they have been abjectly failed by their school. Also, often though, abjectly failed by parents who don't instill discipline, routine, ability to work hard and do what your teachers tell you and do your homework. It's those kids I worry about.
It is, and I think this obsession we have of analysing the numbers and trying to work out where they're going in, actually, the kids that are the quiet ones in the corner who are getting the average grades, who would have hoped for slightly more, which are most of the kids, are the ones that are then feeling the real pressure because they're not getting this magic A star or any double star
get A's,
and everything else. And it's the psychological impact of all of this. Stop the analysis. Just let kids get the grades that they deserve to get. Well, they need to not
be political. They not be political by taking out any political aspect to this. That's what they need to do. Let's also talk about 20-mile-per-hour zones. We touched on this with Richard Passold a little bit earlier. Louise Haigh, the Transport Secretary, she has been very much in the news after doing deals with the railway unions and then facing yet more strikes. The reality is, most people don't get a train from one year to the next, and even if they were trying to, there's probably a strike on, they wouldn't be able to get it. Most people drive to work, they drive their kids to school, they have to drive everywhere to go to do anything in their lives. Most people are in their cars. We saw what happened in Wales when they brought in a pretty much across the board 20-mile-per-hour zones, apart from on dual garageways and motorways, and which brought the country to a standstill. Lengthened journeys, doesn't save any lives, it doesn't deal with pollution. This has been brought in more and more areas. Where I live in North London, major arterial routes are running right through into London. It's a red route bus, you're not allowed to park on most of it, and it's now at 20-mile-per-hour zone, and it has been for quite a long time, quite a few months now, and it is hated by everyone in the area. Now, all the local little residential streets and where all the schools are all 20 mile per hour already. In fact, lots of those streets are blocked between certain hours of the day to deal with pollution and traffic. But I mean, most people are driving down these roads in good quality cars with good brakes that can, modern cars now, have got good stopping distances, and they are constantly on the brake pedal, desperately trying to not go above 20 because you cannot have your foot on the accelerator and not go. These roads are just completely, they're designed to go at 30. What is the point of this?
Well, there doesn't seem to be any point in whatsoever because, Keir Starmer's just been to Wales and the Welsh brought in this blanket 20-mile-an-hour speed limit and they're reining back from it because they've recognised that it doesn't reduce pollution, it doesn't reduce accidents on the road, it causes more problems with cars and in fact it causes more pollution. Yeah. So clearly his memo he either hasn't written yet or the Transport Secretary hasn't read it yet, bringing in this policy with...
But again, we know this is something that Sadiq Khan, the London Mayor, absolutely loves in London. But Louise Haigh said, look, this should be up to local councils. But again, no one voted for this. Genuinely, I'm one of those people. I do respond to all of the local council, consultations simply because I know that they deliberately make sure that the bodies that will support them get that information soon. And I try and organise neighbours. But I don't know anyone in the area who wants it. And everyone's talking about kids, kids getting knocked down. You know what my number one job as a parent was when my daughter started walking to school was, well, nursery even, teaching her how to cross the road. She knows, to this day, anyone in our street spots you looking at your phone as you cross the road, that phone's gone forever. That is a deal breaker. People worried about stranger danger. I'm worried about strangers in cars knocking my kid down because she's not looked both ways when she crosses the road.
I teach my dog to sit, and every time she comes to a curb, she sits, and I teach her to look left and look right and cross the road.
Teach your kids how to cross the road.
The number of kids that don't, and they look at me strangely when I've got the dog doing it. Ask Tilly, is it all clear? Even
on zebra crossings, you're driving, you're within the speed limit, you're perfectly happy to stop as you legally are required to do, but literally someone would just walk along a pavement and just walk out on a zebra crossing. They haven't looked. It's like, my thing is, you might legally and morally be in the right, but if I'm an idiot and I haven't seen you or I don't care, I may well go to prison or get 12 points of my license or whatever.
But you're still going to be dead. Yeah,
but I'm not in a morgue. Yeah. And that's the difference. I don't think, you want to... it's just... And also low traffic neighbourhoods as well. Again... Well, that's lovely for all the really able-bodied people who can ride their bikes and like looking at the big wooden things, flowers, which cost about 10 grand each. But actually, most people don't want this.
But as we've seen with Sadiq Khan, and I live just on the outskirts of Birmingham, the local councils that are there are 20-mile-an-hour zones at the moment. So local councils already have the authority to do that in places that they want to. So why is she coming out with this unless it's just sort of another political soundbite?
And again, it is what it's fundamentally all about. It's about getting money from fines. That is what it's all about. And if you want to spend your time earning your money from people driving at 22 or 23 miles per hour effectively, it's all intents and purposes, a dual carriageway in a major area. I mean, I just think it's utterly absurd. I want to get to one more story before we get to break. I know I'm running late for the break, but I want to talk about Farrow & Ball, because they're the posh paint company, fancy schmancy. Their paint sells for £100 a tin for just for 5 litres. And basically, they've been told by vegans, some vegan group, they'd change their paint colour names to make them more vegan friendly. Animal activists at PETA have said the brand needs to update the names and colours. They said they normalise the exploitation of animals. So they've got one called Dead Salmon, Smoked Trout, of course, potted shrimp, and apparently they need to rename these because they said it's a fun way to appeal to more conscious consumers. These people are stark staring insane, aren't they?
Oh, yes.
I don't mean the people at PETA. I mean the people who pay that much for paint.
Well, you don't pay that much for it. And sometimes it's the colour.
You're justifying.
It's the colour that you want.
You've got a Farrow & Ball wall, haven't you?
No. We don't have a Farrow & Ball wall. My wife shabbied some furniture that we have around the house, and it looks absolutely fantastic.
Shabbied.
And the Farrow & Ball paint was exactly
what she wanted. We'll let you off.
But again, these vegans coming in, one of the names they want to change is a mushroom colour to magic mushroom. So they're promoting drugs. Oh, great!
Absolutely. I'm in awe of the people who can come up with all these different names for paint, but just do it by numbers. But I do just find it extraordinary. If you are bothered by the name, this is how crazy these people are. Yeah. Calling it dead salmon. I mean, even if you don't eat salmon, there are still salmon that die. And what we call those people? Those salmon? Dead salmon, because they're dead. Madness. I mean, the fact that these people are even given the time of day. Why am I talking about them? Yeah. I mean, shame on me. I won't talk about this madness anymore. They're mad. We've got to stop giving them airtime. Until the next time. 11:25 is the time we're going to get to your calls. If you want to call up about dead salmon and Farrow & Ball paint. If you're dumb enough to buy Farrow & Ball paint, call in and justify it. This is Talk, the home of common sense.